From the Padres Radio Network, here's Sam Levitt.
San Diego Padres baseball coming up on 97.3 The Fan and the Padres Radio Network. Today, the Padres take on the Milwaukee Brewers in the second game of a three-game series. Our starting pitching matchup today on the mound for the Brewers, left-hander Bruce Zimmerman, and for the Padres, right-hander Randy Vasquez. Hi, good everyone. Sam Levitt with you from inside the loft here at the Western Metal Building at Petco Park. First pitch coming up at 6:40 p.m. Coming up in the next 50 minutes, we have a lot to do. We'll hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt. We hear from Padres shortstop Xander Bogaerts. The X-Man is back in the Padres lineup here tonight. Plus, we hear from Ryan O'Hearn, and we check in with Tony Gwyn Jr. in just a little bit. But first, it's time to set the table, brought to you by Fraser Farms Market. Set your table with the highest quality of natural and organic products from Fraser Farms Market, a San Diego original since 1971 with 3 locations, La Mesa Vista and Oceanside, and at FraserFarmsMarket.com. Padres entered today 86-71. They have clinched a postseason berth in the National League. They enter the day sitting in the NL second wildcard spot, 2.5 games behind the Cubs for the first spot. At the moment, the Padres would head to Chicago for a wildcard series beginning a week from today, but the Padres do still have a chance to catch the Cubs and host that series. The Padres have the tiebreaker between those two teams. Padres are also 2.5 games back of the Dodgers for the National League West lead, but the Padres do not have the tiebreaker there. Brewers come in 95-62, the best record in baseball. Milwaukee clinching the National League Central title on Sunday. They are still looking to clinch the number 1 seed in the NL postseason and home field advantage throughout. Well, what a game we had last night. What a moment. What a celebration. It was special. Let's rewind.
Did you miss what happened in the last Padres game? Let's take a look back with our Padres Rewind on the Padres Radio Network.
Padres trail 3-1 going to the bottom half of the 5th inning. Jose Iglesias led off.
He delivers, and first pitch swinging. Jose Iglesias deep to left. Collins is back. It's going to go. Long home run to left for Iglesias. Only his second of the year, and he puts it into the second deck in left field. This is a 1-run game in the bottom of the 5th.
Nick Pivetta went 5 2/3 innings, allowed 3 runs. Padres still trail 3-2 going to the 7th inning. There were runners on first and second, 2 men away for Luis Arraez.
1-0 pitch, hit hard, on a line, up the middle, into center, and a base hit. Iglesias rounding third. He's going to score, and Luis Arraez comes through. This game is tied in the 7th.
From that point on, it became a battle of the bullpens in a 3-3 game. We went top 10. The Brewers jumped in front on a run-scoring fielder's choice. Padres did the same in the bottom half of the 10th inning. Top of the 11th, a 4-4 game. Brewers had the bases loaded, 1 out against young right-hander Bradley Rodriguez. The count went to 3-2 on Jackson Chourio.
3-2 to Chourio. Here's the pitch from Rodriguez. Swung on, bounced over the mound. Fielded by the bag by Cronenworth. Hit second one. On to first in time, and a double play to end the inning. Rodriguez nearly tipped it. He missed it, and it went right to Cronenworth near second base. And an easy 2 to send us to the bottom of the 11th, tied at 4.
We went to that bottom half of the 11th inning, the winning run on third base for Freddie Fermin.
First pitch, Fermin swings, lines it into center field. That'll do it. Freddie Fermin walks it off as Bryce Johnson scores, and the Padres are headed back to the playoffs in 2025.
It was never going to be easy, but the Padres walk it off in the best possible way.
Another sold-out crowd going crazy here at Petco Park, and for good reason. The Padres punching their ticket to the 2025 postseason in walk-off fashion as they beat the Brew Crew 5-4 in 11 innings. And now the Padres going for a 4th consecutive win here today as they play the middle game of this 3-game series. Let's go inside the Jerry Coleman Broadcast Center.
Let's take a trip up to the Padres broadcast booth for a deep dive on today's matchup with Tony Gwyn Jr. in our Padres game preview. on the Padres Radio Network.
Well, Tony, last night we had an amazing game here at Petco Park, an amazing finish, an awesome celebration inside the clubhouse. You did such a great job, as always, with the clubhouse interviews in the midst of the celebration. What will you remember most from last night's game, the way it all went down?
A couple things. I'll remember the tempered celebration compared to the previous couple of years when I've been down there and got to be a part of that. And it just, the other thing I think that, I don't know that it surprised me because I'm around it all the time, is just how much those guys care about one another and want to win for one another. It was very apparent listening to the speeches after the game. Different guys, different parts of the team, not necessarily all players. I think those are the things that stand out to me most.
Yeah, absolutely. Was a lot of fun, great celebration, and obviously a great way to clinch a postseason berth. Turning the page to today in the remaining schedule, Tony, it's an interesting situation. Padres have 5 games remaining. There is certainly still a lot to play for as far as trying to catch the Cubs, maybe even catch the Dodgers. Certainly the Cubs part of it. That could be realistic if the Padres take care of their business and the Cubs continue to struggle. How do you think the Padres will treat these remaining 5 games while also making sure that they do have things lined up the way they want for a postseason series beginning next week?
I think that takes priority, making sure things are lined up. And I think they'll play it in whatever benefits the ball club most. Right now, Cubs are up 5-1 in their game against the Mets. So, if that continues, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tougher to catch the Cubs than it is going to be the Dodgers at this point. So I think you'll see the guys get a day off today. I think they'll be back in there tomorrow. And I think it'll really be a pursuit of trying to play their best baseball moving forward so that they're ready when the lights get their brightest come playoff time. And so what that looks like, I think that'll also be determined by what the other teams are doing in these games and how they approach it.
Yeah, and it's a really good point you make, because the Padres could win out and still they need a lot of help in order to catch either of those teams. So it's a really good point.
Yeah, and no need to, ultimately the objective at this point is to make sure your team is fully ready once the playoffs start. So I think that's the priority at this point.
Yeah, totally agree. Let's talk about today's starting pitcher, Randy Vasquez, on the mound for the Padres. I think you and I agree Randy has been, maybe an unsung hero of this team. You look at the numbers, the sub-4 ERA in 125-plus innings. He's really, really been so effective, and he keeps you in games. I suppose my question with Randy here tonight is, after this start here tonight, looking forward, how do you anticipate the Padres could potentially use a guy like Randy moving forward in a postseason scenario?
That's a great question. I don't know. I don't know how, Ruben and those guys feel about him coming out of the pen. Obviously not everybody is equipped to be able to do it. I know he's done it at times, but he hasn't done it in a Padre uniform very often, if at all. And so I'm not 100% sure how they see it.
Yeah.
I know that ultimately this start for him is still important, right? It certainly could open the door for them to have that conversation if he continues to go out and put his best foot forward. And so if I'm Randy Vasquez today, I'm trying to go out here and throw zeros up all game long so I can impress to possibly have a chance to be on that roster. You mentioned him kind of being an unsung hero. In a lot of ways, his year reminds me a little bit of Matt Waldron, right? I think at 24, Matt Waldron's his couple of months where he was one of the better starters really helped the Padres kind of stay afloat there until they got hot and kind of was able to kind of run away. Vasquez has had to do it in different ways, but his last couple of starts have been kind of big starts for the Padres. They needed some innings, and he's provided it. And I think he's shown a lot of growth this year. I know he struggled with the walks early, but it seems like he's kind of figured that out. He's been pitching more to contact. He's been putting guys away, or at least forcing them to put the ball in play without having to go 7, 8, 9 pitches into at bats. And I think that's an improvement for Vasquez.
And we'll dive into some of the numbers on the walks coming up a little bit later, because you're 100% right. That has been a huge difference for Randy as of late. He's been really, really good. Look forward to seeing Randy on the mound here tonight. Tony, appreciate the time. Great job yesterday inside the clubhouse. We'll talk to you and Jesse coming up at 6:30. Thanks so much.
Appreciate you, Sam. Thank you.
All right, Tony Gwyn Jr. joining us on our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show here on the Padres Radio Network as we get ready for first pitch coming up at 6:40. Padres playing Game 2 of this 3-game series against the Milwaukee Brewers. And like Tony was alluding to, Padres are going to need some help from the Cubs, from the Dodgers. Well, I should be more specific, from the teams playing those two teams in order to make up the ground they would need to host a wild card series. Padres right now can't control that. What they can control is taking care of their own business. They have 2 games remaining against the Brew Crew, 3 games against the Diamondbacks, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But the good thing, what we do know, is the Padres will play baseball in the postseason on Tuesday in a wild card series. Against who and where are still the things that are yet to be finalized. But the good news is the Padres have punched their ticket to the 2025 postseason. When we come back, we'll take our first look at the Padres lineup today. Maybe unsurprisingly, some guys out of the lineup today. Padres giving some of their veterans rest today. We'll hear from Mike Shildt a little bit later. We hear from Xander Bogaerts. He is one veteran who is back in the lineup today off the IL, so that's certainly very good news. We'll hear from Xander. We'll hear from Ryan O'Hearn, our keys to the game, and much, much more to do as we get ready for first pitch coming up in just a little bit right here on the Padres Radio Network.
Stay tuned to the EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show. EcoWater SoCal, celebrating their centennial. Your water should be perfect.
Postseason push. Gear up for postseason.
Our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show continues here on the Padres Radio Network. Sam Levitt with you inside the loft here at the Western Metal Building at Petco Park as we get ready for Game 2 of this 3-game series against the Milwaukee Brewers. First pitch coming up at 6:40. Petco Park filling in. Should be a fun night of baseball. A lot of people already here inside the loft enjoying all their beers and mixed drinks, and all the great stuff they have to offer here at Petco Park. Everybody having a good time. Why not? Padres clinching a postseason berth here last night. It was a party. I did get the champagne off my skin and out of my hair, so I'm ready to go today. And hopefully more champagne celebrations to come in the postseason. And the Padres, first things first, 5 games remaining in the regular season, beginning here tonight as right-hander Randy Vasquez takes the mound. Well, after the celebration last night, even though the Padres certainly have something to play for here, they are going to somewhat prioritize, at least today, giving some guys rest. And you do understand that. So the lineup today looks like this. Luis Arise is DHing leading off. Xander Bogaerts at shortstop batting second. Gavin Sheets, the left fielder, batting third. Ramon Laureano in right field batting cleanup. Rhino Hearn, the first baseman, batting fifth. Jose Iglesias at third base batting sixth. Bryce Johnson in center batting seventh. Freddie Fermin doing the catching batting eighth. And Mason McCoy at second base today batting ninth with, again, Randy Vasquez on the mound. So who's missing out of the lineup today? Well, no Manny. Fernando Tatis Jr., a little bit of a different situation. We told you yesterday he was not feeling well yesterday morning. He was not in the clubhouse postgame. They did FaceTime him from inside the clubhouse, but he was not part of the celebration, unfortunately, yesterday. You'll hear about him in just a second. Jackson Merrill not in the lineup. Jake Cronenworth also not in the lineups. The Padres, again, giving guys some rest today. And Fernando, a little bit of a different situation. With all that in mind, let's hear from the Padre manager.
Let's pull up a seat in the manager's office and hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt. Served up by Sin Lee Food, where fresh meets flavor. Find farm fresh produce, bold Asian spices, and gourmet ingredients at 4665 El Cajon Boulevard. Sin Lee Food, the cook's Asian resource.
It's really fun. You know, a lot leads up to it. You know, in our game, we try to do our job to celebrate every win. But in this industry, it's always about what's next. And it's still about what's next right now. But, you know, you spend a lot of time, energy, organizationally working towards being a team that has a chance to win a World Series. And it's not an easy thing to do. And you spend a lot of time, you know, I was talking to Kevin O'Connell about this, you know, the head coach of the Vikings when we were over in Minnesota, just how different the sports are, you know, day to day versus, you know, week to week. And they're all both really magnified, but the grind it takes every day to compete, to show up, and then have an accomplishment that gets us in the playoffs for the second year in a row is very fulfilling. And, you know, a lot of people to be thankful. And one of the group that I failed to mention, I mentioned player development, but I want to specifically talk about our AAA staff. You know, that group, Peter Zamora and Scott Mitchell and Jeff Jones and you know, Big City, Matt Adams, who had years ago, and Raul Padron, the hitting coach, have done a phenomenal job getting these guys ready to come up and help us. So they deserve some real kudos, unsung heroes.
How proud are you of this team and what you guys had to overcome over the course of the season? Because every season has its own challenges, but this one's been unique.
Scan, it does have its challenges. You know, it's not a straight line for anybody in this league. It's just not. That's also the separator. And, you know, this has been a grindy year. There's been a lot of, you know, between the rotation and injury and just a lot of different, you know, coming into the season with some open, you know, question marks about positions. And, you know, clearly the trade deadline shored that up, and grateful for AJ and all the work that and this ownership supported us with. But, yeah, it's been a year where, you know, a lot of moving parts, and we've had a group that's been able to keep their eye on the prize and stay dedicated. And, you know, who you are is what you do when you're most uncomfortable. It's been uncomfortable at times this year, but that's where you grow too. And we were able to get through it, and here we are and in a good position. And now we are looking to the next steps.
Yeah. And what are the next steps? Because obviously it's nice that you got a little bit of time to start planning for postseason, but also this season's not done yet either. So what's the focus right now?
Yeah, I mean, it's you don't want to be with your feet in two different places, but we are in, so we're cemented there. And now we're really clear about, you know, we're not going to give anything away. You know, we look to compete, and, you know, I want to be here Tuesday night playing in front of the best fans in baseball. We are going to be smart about giving some guys some rest, and people might think, oh, man, why are you resting them now? Well, they've been grinding, man. These guys, you know, we bypassed a couple days off for some guys that once we got there that we had thought about and having some days off, we went, no, we got to keep going. And so now getting some guys off their feet, but they'll be back on them, making sure we're smart with the bullpen and guys that have, hats off to Suarez and Morihone last night, 3 in a row for the first time, which we wait for that time, to make sure. So last night was the right time to do it. But, man, Morihone coming and blowing 100 after striking out the side the day before. Suarez coming in and, throwing as well as he did. Fantastic. But those guys are going to get, a day or two off as well and take advantage of the off day. But, let's don't kid ourselves. We're going to be mindful about putting ourselves in the best position to be ready and healthy and real compete on Tuesday. But also, we want to be here and play on Tuesday as well.
Xander Bogaerts back. How important is it to have him back, and how crucial for him to get this time to get himself ready for postseason?
It's really important. I mean, it's a good time for Bogey to be back. We talk about the grindiness and missing him. Sometimes you don't appreciate how solid that guy is and how much he means to our lineup until it's like anything. You don't appreciate something until it's gone sometimes. And unfortunately, it was gone. But, Crony and Louis picked up the proverbial slack. But having Bogey back is a big part of this. And the timing of it's great because it's going to give him 4 to 5 games to go play and get his timing and get back into what he needs to do to go help us win.
Any update on Fernando? How he's feeling?
Still battling it, man. Still in a position where medically everybody's like, just get rest. Thankfully we were able to do what we did last night, but don't feel like it was something that we need to bring him in and try to grind through. He's just not feeling really good, but he's on the mend a little bit, and we'll see about tomorrow.
With Bogaerts back and kind of what it does for your offense, not just obviously having him back, but like leading your offense when Fernando is back too, and presumably next week. But what does that mean in terms of having that whole group of guys together, which you haven't had very often?
We have not had it. I do feel like we clearly have a deep lineup, and it's good. We have a deep team, position player team, that guys have been able to fill in admirably. Last night, Johnson goes out and plays a great game. McCoy's in there today, expect him to go do some things to help us win a ball game. The lefties, we talked about, how they've been competing well against lefties and, allowed them to do that, and they've rewarded that. But with Bogey in the lineup, it balances it out. It creates really what the design of the club is to be, and that's to have a balanced attack 1 through 9 and have Bogey back. And then when Fernando gets back, it'll allow us to have that complete lineup.
What can you realistically expect from him after missing the kind of time he did, coming back at this time of year?
I think we have. The expectations are always high, and no higher than Bogey's going to put on himself. Being at this time of the year, and he, I should probably know the exact number, but this guy's got close to 500 at bats. So and he hadn't missed he's missed some time, but it'd be different, like him to figure out his rhythm if this was April or even May. He's got his 500 at bats in. He went there zoning, which is, I love the way we approach our rehab with our position players in the sense that, he was able to get, 25, 30 at bats in there. Swing looks really good. So I expect him to come back. It's just a matter of how he's able to move, but I think we're comfortable and confident about that as well. But as far as his timing and his hitting, listen, it's still the big league, so it might be adjustment there, but wrap-up point, I think he's in a pretty good place.
That was Padres manager Mike Shildt earlier today inside the Padres dugout. You heard him discuss Xander Bogaerts making his return today. We'll hear from the X-Man coming up a little bit later on as part of our pregame coverage as we get ready for first pitch. Coming up at 6:40, let's quickly pause for station identification on the Padres radio network.
KWFN and KWFN HD1 San Diego.
Hey, this is Ryan O'Hearn. The Padres play here on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
And Odyssey Sports Station.
Sam Levitt with you here inside the loft at the Western Metal Building at Petco Park as we get ready for tonight's game 2 of this 3-game series between the Padres and the Milwaukee Brewers. Let's take you around the horn.
Let's examine the most important news and the latest information you need to know in the world of Major League Baseball. Sam Levitt takes you around the horn. Presented by Valley View Casino and Hotel. Get ready for Major League winning. when you join Valley View Casino and Hotels Players Club and receive over $200 in free instant offers. Visit valleyviewcasino.com to learn more today.
Well, let's get to a couple of headlines regarding some postseason teams before we get to a major headline regarding next season. Mariners All-Star right-hander Bryan Woo will not make his scheduled start on Thursday night against the Rockies because of pectoral tightness. He came out of his last start with that tightness. Woo exiting that start, but the Mariners don't plan to put him on the IL. He'll get pushed back a little bit. So we'll see what the situation ends up being for Bryan Woo, but he will not make his normally scheduled start on Thursday, and we'll see when he does appear, if he does make a start before the end of the regular season. But right now, no plans to put him on the IL. Make no mistake, that is a very important pitcher to the Seattle Mariners. The Blue Jays today activated slugger Anthony Santander off the 60-day IL. They also designated for assignment former All-Star Alek Manoah, who's had a really tough go of it over the last couple of years. Santander, remember, signed a $92+ million deal with the Blue Jays this past offseason, but he's been out since May 29th because of a left shoulder injury, and now he rejoins the playoff-bound Blue Jays for the final week of the regular season. And finally, major news today that won't impact anything until 2026, but Major League Baseball will implement a challenge system for balls and strikes in the 2026 season after the league's competition committee voted earlier today to usher in the new era of quote-unquote robot umpiring. Of course, you saw this during spring training. You've seen it over the course of the last couple of years in the minor leagues. And this will be a system where each team will have 2 challenges per game. Hitters, pitchers, and catchers will be the only ones allowed to trigger the system by tapping their head. If a challenge is successful, the pitch will be shown on an in-stadium video board. And if they get the challenge right, they'll retain their challenge. So everything we saw at spring training, we talked about it a lot back then. The initial challenge system, the initial introduction to the ABS system, well, that is coming to Major League Baseball in 2026. And we'll hear from Ryan O'Hearn about that a little bit later as well. When we come back, we hear from Xander Bogaerts. We have our keys to today's game. Much, much more to do as we get ready for first pitch coming up at 6:40 right here on the Padres Radio Network.
Hello, my friends. It's Woodsy. Did you
For EcoWater SoCal, Padres pregame show continues here on the Padres Radio Network. Sam Levitt with you inside the loft here at the Western Metal Building at Petco Park. EcoWater SoCal, your water should be perfect. First pitch coming up at 6:40. Right-hander Randy Vasquez on the mound for the Padres today. Left-hander Bruce Zimmerman is on the mound for the Brewers. We'll tell you much more about that starting pitching matchup coming up in just a little bit. Well, the headline of today's game from a Padres standpoint, I think no doubt, yes, one of the headlines is the Padres have clinched a postseason berth, and they still do have something to play for as far as potentially catching the Cubs or the Dodgers. We'll see about all that. But no doubt, Xander Bogaerts being back in the lineup today, certainly a big headline. Bogaerts, who suffered that non-displaced fracture of his left foot a handful of weeks ago. He's done a great job in working his way back. So as we tell you about Xander, let's take a full look at our injury report.
Who's in? Who's out? This is the Bada Fulkerson Injury Report, presented by San Diego's Bulldog Injury Attorneys, who hope you're never in an accident. But if you are, make Bada Fulkerson the first call you make. Hit them up 24/7 at badafulkerson.com.
Before we hear from Xander Bogaerts, let's give you a few other updates. Obviously, a lot of guys getting rest today. Manny's getting rest after clinching last night. Jackson Merrill, Jake Cronenworth not in the lineup. Now, Fernando Tatis Jr., a little bit of a different situation. He is missing a second straight game due to illness. We'll see when Fernando comes back. He did not play yesterday. He was not in the clubhouse postgame for the celebration. Fernando, again, not in the lineup today with that illness after waking up yesterday and not feeling well. As far as some other updates, right-hander David Morgan continues to be on the IL with right shoulder inflammation. We'll see if Morgan comes back at some point. Left-hander Nestor Cortes pitched a 2-inning simulated game last week. Felt good. He was expected to pitch in one more sim game early this week. I don't have an update really for you on that, but we'll see what the update is in the days to come on Nestor Cortes. And now with the Padres clinching, we'll see if Cortes does factor into their pitching plans over the course of the next handful of days. And finally, Xander Bogaerts reinstated from the IL earlier today, the corresponding move, the Padres optioning infielder Will Wagner. Let's hear from Xander Bogaerts. He spoke with the media earlier today inside the clubhouse. The X-Man is back.
I mean, I am definitely happy to be able to come back a little bit sooner and being able to play in some big league games. I mean, it's different playing in games down there as opposed to playing up here in the big leagues where things are a little more quicker. I mean, guys are just that much better, you know, and got a couple games in me before we head into the playoffs. I think it'll be nice.
Yeah, how important will that be just to get your timing down, if nothing else, before heading into postseason?
I mean, if I look bad, I mean, you know, it's all timing issues, you know, so just bear with me on that one, you know, and different facing guys in instructs and facing big league, you know, pitching. So hopefully it all goes well, man, and I get some balls right over the plate and I put some good swings on it. And I think the most important thing is feeling good in these couple of days and just keep the momentum going as a team.
Are you still working through any pain or discomfort, or you're just good to go and it's just a matter of getting your rhythm again?
I feel good, you know. I think the last couple of days in Arizona was much better. You know, the last day was still some stuff on some sort of movements, but no, it's been good. A lot has been mental. You know, I mean, it's the feet. I'm throwing on my feet. I'm hitting. The hitting hasn't really bothered me. When I'm running, everything you're doing is pretty much starts on your feet. So a lot of it is mental, especially on the defensive side and throwing wise. I mean, but hopefully get over that.
You guys celebrated last night, but the job's not finished per se. You guys still have a chance to potentially catch the Cubs, potentially still get that division. What's kind of the mindset going forward these last 5 games?
I think it's very huge, you know, ending the season on a strong note. I mean, it's easy for you to just throw away games and be like, oh, you know, just go through the motions, you know, but I'm a big believer in ending the season on a strong note and just having that momentum going over into the playoffs. You know, I mean, we're still playing for something, you know, where the division's there and we're still, if not the first wild card spot. I mean, the good part is we're in, you know, I think that's the biggest key, but if you can get in a better view or better way, it'll be much better.
You've had this before where you celebrate, you got to turn around and play again. How challenging is it when you have a bit more of an eventful night than typical and you got to turn around and get back to it?
I mean, I don't think it's that hard, you know. I mean, some guys might be wasted, some more than others, you know. But I mean, that's what they're supposed to do. I mean, we accomplished something that we all wanted in the beginning of spring training, get to the playoffs, and then obviously we know the ultimate goal is to win the whole thing. But this is one step in the right direction, and I mean, some guys that have days off, they're much deservedly of it.
Did you handle the celebration differently, knowing what's coming for you today?
Yeah, I mean, this was a little different for me. I mean, I was a little more focused on tomorrow than most of the other guys. As you said, I think I'm in a different situation than the other guys, so I was more looking forward to it. And I mean, playing in Arizona at 11, 12 o'clock, I mean, I think he's excited to be part of a big league game right now at 7,
Did you know some more on the defensive side or the swinging side and trying to come back with most of the discomfort and trying to get the return?
The hitting pretty much the whole time was fine. I think the defense would probably be the bigger one, defense and just running in general. I mean, all the cuts, running, going first for a double. Yeah, that was the number one. That was the hardest one. I think that kind of held it back a little bit more.
Do you think you'll wear a guard now for the foreseeable future, even when this is fully healed?
I'm gonna wear one now. I can tell you that. So throughout the ending of this year, I'll definitely wear one. I don't know about. I mean, maybe I should. Let's see how it goes with the guard. Yeah, I'll give it some time for that.
That was Xander Bogaerts earlier today inside the Padres clubhouse. First pitch coming up at 6:40 as the Padres take on the Milwaukee Brewers on this Tuesday evening. Let's give you our keys to today's game.
How will the Padres unlock a win today? These are the keys to the game. Presented by El Centro Motors Ford. Meet your new Ford General Manager, Greg Ryan, now at El Centro Motors Ford, your new Ford truck, Bronco, and SUV HQ. Call Greg directly at 619-944-0774.
Key number 1, keep the pitching rolling. The Padres have won 3 in a row, and they've allowed just 9 runs total in a 3-game winning streak. The Padres bullpen has held opponents to 3 earned runs in 13 2/3 innings during that 3-game win streak. The Padres, how about this? Against the Brewers team that has the best record in baseball, they've held them in 4 games this year to a grand total of 8 runs. So we'll see if the Padres pitching staff can keep it rolling here tonight. With Randy Vasquez making the start, Padres will be a little bit limited in their bullpen tonight. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Key number 2 is victory. You know what? I'm going to scratch key number 2 because he's not in the lineup here tonight. I'm realizing that's not a key tonight. So excuse me. Sorry about that. Delete. Key number 3. Well, key number 2, really. Boy, I'm a mess tonight. Keep limiting Jackson Chourio. Chourio has 0 hits and 0 walks in his last 15 plate appearances. He's batting only .200 in the month of September. He had a rough night yesterday, including rounding into that key double play in the 11th inning. Chourio is back in left field and playing second base here tonight for the Brewers. Luis Arraez. How about a nice night for Luis, especially with some of the regulars out of the lineup? He's DHing, leading off once again. He's batting .333 during an 11-game hit streak. He's been a singles machine as of late. He's gone 17 straight games without an extra base hit, but again, he's hitting .333 in his last 11. We'll see if Luis can, at the very least, keep on hitting those singles here today. He had a big RBI single to tie the game in yesterday's win, and that's a quick look at some of our keys to today's game. Let's take a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard, tell you what's going on another very important day across the major leagues.
Let's take a trip around the bigs to highlight the scores that matter most with our out-of-town scoreboard. Presented by Jensen Premium Beef Patties. Always a hit for grilling.
We take a look at scores from around the majors. Couple of finals already. Guardians beat the Tigers 5-2 in Cleveland. I'm going to update you on the AL Central standings in a second. My goodness, how about the Guardians and how about the Tigers? Pirates beat the Reds 4-2 in Cincinnati. That means at the moment, if the Mets beat the Cubs tonight, the Mets would move back into control of the final wild card spot. The Reds had control of it with a tie in the tiebreaker entering today. Games going on right now. Orioles 4, Rays nothing in Baltimore 6th inning. Marlins tied with the Phillies 3-3 in the 9th inning. White Sox 2, Yankees 1 in New York in the 8th inning. Red Sox leading the Blue Jays 4-1 in Toronto in the 7th. Braves 3, Nationals 2 in Atlanta in the 8th inning. Mets and the Cubs are tied at 6 in Chicago in the 6th inning. Obviously, that game having implications for the Padres as well. If they are to catch the Cubs for the top wild card spot, Twins ahead of the Rangers 2-1 in Arlington in the 4th inning. And a few games yet to begin aside from this one. Royals and the Angels in Anaheim at 6:38. Rockies and the Mariners in Seattle at 6:40. Dodgers and the Diamondbacks in Arizona at 6:40 as well. And that is a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard on this Tuesday. By the way, the Guardians and the Tigers, with the Guardians winning that game here today, they move into a tie with the Tigers for first place in the American League Central. Unbelievable the way they have stormed back in that division. They are now tied with the Tigers atop that division at the end of tonight. We'll step aside. When we come back, we'll hear from Ryan O'Hearn and much, much more. First pitch coming up at 6:40 right here on the Padres Radio Network.
You're listening.
Our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show continues here on the Padres Radio Network. Sam Levitt with you inside the loft here at the Western Metal Building. First pitch coming up at 6:40 against the Brewers. Let's tell you what to watch for in tonight's game.
What's the one thing Sam Levitt will be keeping his eye on in today's game? This is What to Watch For, presented by Genesis Home Improvements, San Diego's trusted painting, roofing, and window company. Save 15% today on a new beginning for your home. Visit GenesisHomeImprovementsSD.com.
What to watch for in tonight's game? Adrian Morejon and Robert Suarez are both likely down here today after pitching 3 consecutive days. Jeremiah Estrada, he's pitched 3 out of the last 4. He might be unavailable too today. So what to watch for in today's game? How do the Padres navigate their bullpen with likely them wanting to avoid Morejon, Suarez, Estrada? They had a lot of guys pitch last night in that long extra inning game. how do the Padres navigate their pens tonight? Could look a little bit different even in a close game with the lead. That is what to watch for in today's game. Ryan O'Hearn back in the lineup for the Padres today, playing first base and batting fifth. He spoke about the team's mindset in the final 5 games of the regular season.
Same mentality. There's still stuff to fight for. We got 5 games left. Obviously we prefer to play at home, and that's still kind of on the table. And show up and play every game just like we have all year.
What does it mean to get Xander Bogaerts back in the lineup, especially at this time, having a little runway before playoffs?
Yeah, I think it's huge. Obviously, it's such a big part of our team. Veteran, stable out there at shortstop, and such a big position on the field. Excited to have Bogey back, and especially with a few games left, kind of get locked in going into the postseason.
To have a moment like you did last night to share that with the team, talking about kind of teams coming together, coalescing, what can that do for a group now going into October where that type of kind of unity really means something?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the unity has been there since I've gotten here, for sure. But I think, to your point, when you win, when you accomplish something like a postseason, clinching a postseason berth as a team, it can definitely bring you closer together. And, that's something that's going to, pay dividends for us going into the postseason.
See the news about the ABS challenge?
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a perfect blend of, keeping the human element to a degree, but also, put some power in the players' hands to be able to challenge big moments. And, it's not like you have unlimited challenges. You got to choose wisely and make sure it's an important moment. I like it, and I'm, excited for that next year.
That was Ryan O'Hearn earlier today inside the Padres clubhouse. Randy Vasquez on the mound for the Padres today. He comes in 5-7, a 3.94 ERA on the year. Gave up 4 runs, 48 pitches, just 2 innings and a third. I should say he was charged with 4 runs against the Mets. 2 of the runs came on a home run that he didn't give up. Left-hander Bruce Zimmerman on the mound for the Brewers today. He is making his season debut with the Brewers after getting called up from AAA. As always, thank you for listening to the EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show. EcoWater SoCal, keeping it soft since 1925. Your water should be perfect. When we return, Jesse Agler, Tony Gwyn Jr. have the full starting lineups, first pitch, all the play-by-play. I'll talk to you post-game right here on 97.3 The Fan and the Padres Radio Network.
If you're ready to build your dream home, let the Window Depot help. Our expertise spans more than 20 years helping contractors provide custom windows built to last. Our in-house